On July 1st, 2025, a woman entered a cookie shop inside the shops at Redbird in Dallas, Texas. She was recorded on surveillance video speaking with the business owner for approximately 1 hour. At the end of that interaction, she pulled out a firearm and shot him multiple times. The suspect left the scene and later turned herself in to law enforcement. The victim was identified as 53-year-old Jamie Rocket, owner of the cookie shop. The suspect was identified as 43-year-old Rashonda Lowe, a licensed therapist and former associate of the victim. According to law enforcement, the shooting was not random. The two individuals had a known personal history, and a restraining order had been filed prior to the incident. The details of their past relationship and the events leading up to the shooting are currently under investigation.
And we begin with breaking news in southern Dallas, where a cookie store's owner was shot and killed inside the shops at Redbird.
It happened in the past 6 hours, and we just learned the victim had a restraining order against the suspect.
Right now, Matt Howerton's working to learn more about the victim, why the suspect opened fire, and whether the mall will reopen tomorrow.
This case involved a licensed mental health professional, a business owner, prior legal filings, and a fatal act committed in a public setting during business hours. It raises questions about warning signs, legal protections, and the circumstances under which personal disputes escalate into deadly violence. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Jamie Alejandro Rocket was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. He came from a working-class family with strong roots in the community. His upbringing was centered around values of hard work, consistency, and perseverance. From an early age, Rocket displayed an interest in entrepreneurship, often helping family members with small business activities ranging from informal catering to flea market vending. He graduated from a local high school in Oak Cliff and later attended a community college, where he studied business administration. During his early career, he worked in various roles within retail and food service. These experiences laid the foundation for what would later become a full-fledged commitment to small business ownership. Rocket transitioned into entrepreneurship after years of working in customer-facing industries. By the time he turned 40, he began formulating a plan to open a business of his own, one that would offer comfort food and community connection in a single location. Rocket officially opened cookies and smoothies in the shops at Redbird Mall, located in the Oak Cliff area of South Dallas. He selected this location intentionally, believing in the mall's potential for redevelopment and its role as a central community hub. His shop was positioned to attract families, students, and shoppers seeking affordable treats and personalized service. The business gained traction quickly. Customers praised the shop for its warm atmosphere, the quality of the desserts, and Rocket's welcoming demeanor. He formed strong relationships with frequent visitors, often greeting them by name and offering free samples to children. Over time, cookies and smoothies became more than a dessert stop. It evolved into a community fixture. Rocket hosted school fundraisers, gave discounts to first responders, and participated in mall events aimed at family engagement. Local schools recognized him for contributing baked goods to classroom parties and PTA events. Rocket earned a reputation as a kind-hearted businessman, generous with both time and product. He was widely seen as a model example of local entrepreneurship. The store thrived on repeat business and word-of-mouth recommendations from loyal patrons. At the time of his death, Rocket was reportedly married. However, little public information is available about his spouse, who was not present during the incident. His social circle included friends, neighboring shop owners, and longtime customers. Staff members described him as a fair and reliable employer who maintained a professional but supportive work environment. Publicly, Rocket was viewed as joyful, generous, and hardworking. Privately, according to reports and close contacts, he was dealing with stress related to personal safety. The source of this concern was his former partner, Rashonda Lowe. Friends revealed that he had confided in them about growing discomfort due to unwanted communication from Lowe, who had allegedly continued reaching out after their relationship ended. This behavior eventually led Rocket to pursue legal protection through a restraining order. He reportedly attempted to maintain his daily business operations while quietly managing personal tension in the background. Rashonda Lowe, age 43 at the time of her arrest, was a licensed clinical social worker, LCSW. She specialized in mental health support, including therapy for trauma, family dynamics, and emotional regulation. Before the incident, she practiced in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, working with individual clients and families. Colleagues and online profiles describe her as a dedicated professional with advanced certifications in behavioral therapy. There is no widely known record of professional discipline or license suspension prior to the incident. No former clients have come forward publicly regarding unusual behavior, but some sources suggest she had become emotionally volatile in the months leading up to the shooting. Lowe and Rocket were in a personal romantic relationship at one point, according to court documents and family members. The specific timeline of their involvement has not been made public, but they were reportedly no longer together at the time of the incident. The breakup reportedly triggered persistent contact from Lowe, which Rocket did not reciprocate. Friends claimed that she exhibited controlling behavior and had difficulty accepting the end of the relationship. Over time, her messages reportedly escalated from emotional appeals to aggressive language. Rocket eventually filed for a restraining order, citing ongoing harassment. According to sources close to the case, this included repeated phone calls, unexpected appearances at his shop, and verbal threats. The restraining order was reportedly filed several months prior to the shooting. While the exact date remains undisclosed, court filings reference harassment and threats as grounds. The restraining order was granted, with conditions prohibiting direct contact or proximity to Rocket. There is no record that the restraining order was violated prior to July 1st, though friends say they observed Lowe continuing to appear in public near his place of business. No prior arrests or police interventions were recorded for Lowe before the incident. However, several individuals close to her mentioned observing mood swings and emotional instability in the weeks preceding the shooting. It remains unclear whether Lowe sought mental health assistance for herself or if anyone in her professional network attempted intervention. On July 1st, 2025, Rashonda Lowe entered Cookies and Smoothies around 2:35 p.m. Surveillance footage showed her approaching the counter and speaking with Jamie Rocket. The two engaged in a conversation that lasted nearly an hour. Witnesses reported that the discussion appeared calm initially, but gradually intensified. Rocket was described as visibly uncomfortable but non-confrontational. The tone of the conversation shifted as voices became raised. Employees nearby noted tension, but did not suspect imminent violence. At approximately 3:55 p.m., Lowe reportedly pulled out a handgun and fired multiple rounds at Rocket. He was struck in the head, chest, and legs. After firing the first rounds, Lowe climbed over the counter and discharged additional rounds at close range. Chaos erupted in the mall. Customers and nearby vendors fled. Employees in adjacent stores locked their doors. Despite the public setting, no other individuals were injured. Lowe fled the scene in a white SUV. Witnesses describe her as crying and visibly shaken as she drove away from a mall premises. Dallas police and fire rescue arrived on the scene within minutes. Rocket was pronounced dead at the location.
Well, tonight, the man killed inside the shops at Redbird is being remembered as a fixture in the neighborhood. Richard Solomon spoke to those who knew him and has brand new details from police about what happened.
It's hard to believe it happened.
Shock.
It's hard to believe he's gone.
You wouldn't expect nothing crazy or tragic to happen to Jay.
Brandon Dennison still can't comprehend what happened to his friend, 53-year-old Jamie Alejandro Rocket.
Jay taught me how to...
That's who taught him what he knows about running a business.
like do the print. Jay was like a mentor. You know, I never had a father, so for him to teach me things like that, it meant a lot to me.
Dallas police say the owner of Cookies and Smoothies shop was shot dead inside the shops at Redbird on Tuesday by 43-year-old Rashonda Lowe. And according to a new arrest affidavit, surveillance video showed Lowe talking with Rocket for an hour at his shop when she pulled out a handgun and shot him. The affidavit says she then jumped over the counter and fired several more times at close range, left the gun there, and then ran out of the mall.
Shocking and unbelievable.
She later turned herself in to Arlington police. Records say Jamie did have a restraining order against her, but no one has said yet what the motive was.
He was not just a business owner, he was friends with the people in the community.
And community activists Allison Williams and Jeanette Berry say his presence will be greatly missed.
He gave to the kids, he gave back to the community. He just didn't work at Redbird. He was part of Redbird.
They say Jamie helped them with fundraisers and back-to-school drives.
We should band together more so in his honor to continue the fight and the work in the community.
And that's why it's hard for them to wrap their heads around any of this. And now it's up to them to make sure his work continues.
We're going to keep moving how Jay will move, in love and positivity.
In Dallas, I'm Richard Solomon.
Authorities secured the area and began reviewing security footage and collecting witness statements. The shops at Redbird were partially shut down for several hours. Law enforcement categorized the case as a targeted domestic-related incident and confirmed that the victim and suspect knew one another. Hours later, she voluntarily turned herself into law enforcement authorities in Arlington, Texas. According to the initial arrest affidavit, Lowe reportedly described the event to police as a domestic situation with her ex. Law enforcement officials confirmed her identity and subsequently transported her to the Dallas County Jail. Upon arrival, she was formally booked and charged with first-degree murder. No bond was granted at the time of booking, meaning she will remain in custody pending court proceedings. Her mugshot was released to the public within 24 hours of her arrest and circulated widely across social media platforms. Online interest intensified as news spread that the accused was a licensed mental health professional. The Dallas community responded with swift and visible displays of mourning. Jamie Rocket, known as the owner of cookies and smoothies in the shops at Redbird, had earned a strong reputation for his consistent presence, friendly demeanor, and neighborhood support. Following the announcement of his death, fellow vendors within the mall collectively closed their shops for a day in his memory. A public candlelight vigil was held outside the business, drawing crowds of customers, residents, and friends. Community groups and local advocates quickly addressed the larger implications of the incident. In particular, advocates for male domestic violence victims began speaking out, citing Rocket's case as an example of the overlooked risks that men may face in abusive or controlling relationships. Many raised awareness about how men often struggle to receive adequate support or legal protections when faced with harassment or stalking by former partners. Statements of condolence were issued by Dallas City officials, including Councilwoman Lori Blair and Councilman Zarin Gracie. Both leaders emphasized the tragic nature of the event and affirmed their commitment to ensuring safer public spaces, especially in community hubs like Redbird. Major media outlets quickly picked up the story. Television stations such as Fox 4, CBS Texas, and print outlets, including the Dallas Morning News, provided continuous updates from the moment of the shooting through the arrest. The initial narrative framed the crime as a domestic dispute that escalated into deadly violence. Online platforms further amplified public interest. YouTube creators and true crime podcasters began releasing commentary and breakdowns of the case, with many focusing on the fact that the suspect was a licensed therapist. The contrast between her professional role and her alleged violent act became a central theme in the coverage. Questions emerged surrounding her mental health, professional conduct, and whether there had been prior signs of instability in her personal or clinical life. Some reporting investigated whether Lowe's license to practice should have been revoked before the incident. Public licensing records were reviewed by media outlets to determine if there had been complaints or warnings. While no confirmed disciplinary actions were initially reported, online forums speculated about potential red flags being missed. A key question posed in both professional circles and public discourse was, had she been a danger before the day of the murder? Reshonda Lowe was formally charged with first-degree murder. The charge indicates that the prosecution believed the act was intentional and potentially premeditated. She remains in custody without bond, and as of the latest updates, no trial date has been set. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office is overseeing the prosecution. Police investigators have collected a range of evidence to support the charges. Surveillance footage from inside cookies and smoothies reportedly captured the entire interaction between Rocket and Lowe, including the approximate 1-hour conversation that preceded the shooting and the moment she pulled the weapon. Additional footage from the surrounding mall corridors is also part of the evidence package. Eyewitness accounts were gathered from nearby vendors, customers, and employees. Several witnesses described a calm beginning to the encounter that escalated in tone. Some reported hearing raised voices before the shots were fired. Digital communication records between Rocket and Lowe, such as text messages and emails, have been obtained through legal search warrants. Investigators are analyzing the messages to establish a timeline of escalating behavior and whether any direct threats or warnings were issued prior to July 1st. The restraining order filed by Rocket prior to the shooting is also being reviewed in court proceedings. Police reports related to past incidents involving Lowe are part of the evidence file, as is the physical weapon used in the crime. Legal analysts have raised several questions surrounding the nature of the crime. Chief among them, will Lowe's legal team attempt to argue temporary insanity or diminished capacity? Was the shooting premeditated, given that Lowe entered the business and remained for nearly an hour before firing the weapon? What role, if any, will her professional status as a therapist play in the courtroom? Could it influence sentencing or shape jury perception? Another emerging legal question centers on the restraining order. The case may prompt judicial review on how such protective orders are enforced and whether violations or risks were underestimated in this instance. Rocket's murder has drawn attention to the issue of male victims of domestic violence, a topic often underrepresented in media and social services. Data shows that men are less likely to report stalking, threats, or abuse from intimate partners. Advocates argue that social stigma and skepticism often prevent men from being believed or protected. Rocket's case, particularly with a restraining order already in place, has reignited discussions around the limitations men face in accessing help. Restraining orders are designed to offer legal protection against harassment or harm, but their effectiveness is limited if not adequately enforced. Questions have emerged regarding how seriously authorities monitored Lowe after the order was granted. Was she contacted, warned, or flagged in any system? Were there missed opportunities to intervene? This incident has added to ongoing concerns about the failure of protective measures, especially in domestic cases where warning signs were present. The fact that Lowe was a licensed mental health professional raises additional concerns. Mental health providers are held to strict ethical standards and are expected to maintain emotional stability in their own lives. Her conduct, if proven guilty, would represent a serious breach of ethical boundaries. Commentators and mental health boards have begun asking whether Lowe's place of employment noticed any erratic behavior and whether any professional complaints had been made prior to the crime. If signs were ignored, there could be implications for future licensing oversight and regulation. Experts in forensic psychology have examined the behavioral pattern that preceded the killing. One theme is the issue of obsessive control, where one partner, unable to let go, exhibits increasingly erratic or violent behavior toward an ex-partner. In such scenarios, the aggressor may feel entitled to reclaim control or exact punishment. This case fits known psychological profiles of escalated obsession, particularly when boundaries, such as restraining orders, are set. Professionals are also debating whether therapeutic intervention earlier in the timeline could have made a difference, or whether the escalation had moved beyond any non-custodial solution. Before July 1st, 2025, the shops at Redbird in Dallas, Texas, were part of a city-backed revitalization effort. The mall, once in decline, had been transforming into a hub for small Black-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, and wellness spaces. It symbolized opportunity and local empowerment. One of its most beloved tenants was Jamie Rocket, owner of Cookies and Smoothies, whose presence had become a pillar of positivity within the developing mall community. That image was irreparably altered when Rocket was gunned down inside his shop during business hours. The shocking nature of the crime, combined with its setting inside a public retail space, cast a long shadow over Redbird's reputation. What had once been a symbol of rebirth was now the backdrop of a high-profile homicide, carried out in broad daylight by someone who had once been close to the victim. The shooting raised serious concerns among other business owners at the mall. In the days following the incident, several tenants temporarily closed their stores, citing emotional distress and concerns about personal safety. Customers expressed hesitation about visiting, with foot traffic dropping as the mall was cordoned off for investigation. This incident has led to renewed demands for improved mall security. Business owners and visitors have called for on-site armed security personnel, real-time surveillance monitoring, and direct response panic systems inside shops. While Redbird's development had focused heavily on business attraction and aesthetics, the tragedy has shifted the spotlight to physical safety and emergency preparedness. In the aftermath of the shooting, the Dallas community responded with memorials and public tributes. Though no official scholarship or fund had been confirmed at the time of writing, discussions were underway for a GoFundMe campaign to support Rocket's family and create a scholarship fund in his name, potentially to assist young entrepreneurs starting food businesses. Community testimonials poured in from customers, mall employees, and nearby vendors. Many described Rocket as generous, soft-spoken, and dependable. Former customers shared stories about how he offered free cookies to children, donated smoothies to neighborhood programs, and encouraged other small business owners just starting out. He wasn't simply a man running a shop. He was an advocate for the success of others in his orbit. There's also been momentum behind the idea of a permanent tribute inside the mall. Proposals include a mural bearing his image and business motto, or a plaque installed at the location of his shop. A public petition to dedicate part of the Redbird renovation to Rocket's memory is currently circulating among Dallas residents and mall stakeholders. As of mid-July 2025, Rashonda Lowe remains in Dallas County Jail without bond. She is charged with first-degree murder. The Dallas County District Attorney's Office is preparing its case, and court proceedings are expected to begin with pre-trial hearings later this year. The case will likely hinge on surveillance footage, witness testimonies, and evidence surrounding the restraining order that Rocket had filed against Lowe prior to his death. Legal analysts expect the defense to explore possible plea deals depending on the results of her psychological evaluation. However, given the public nature of the crime, the multiple gunshots, and the violation of a court order, prosecutors are expected to pursue the maximum penalty. If convicted of first-degree murder, Lowe could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. The defense may try to mitigate sentencing by claiming emotional disturbance or mental health impairment, but that remains speculative until official filings are made. Because of Lowe's background as a licensed clinical therapist, the court has ordered a comprehensive psychological evaluation. This evaluation will determine whether she is mentally fit to stand trial and if any psychiatric disorders played a role in the crime. There is a possibility that a competency hearing will be scheduled, especially if the defense raises issues around mental instability or impulse control. The results of these evaluations will not only affect trial logistics, but may also influence the nature of the charges and sentencing outcomes. In addition to criminal consequences, Lowe's professional future is under review. The Texas State Board of Social Work Examiners is expected to begin proceedings to revoke her license permanently. If convicted or found mentally unfit, she would be barred from any future professional practice in the mental health field. Rocket's murder has brought new urgency to calls for stronger protections for victims of domestic violence. Advocates argue that restraining orders are often difficult to enforce and do little to prevent determined individuals from committing harm. This case may become a legislative flashpoint for reforms in how protective orders are monitored and enforced in Texas. Additionally, several professionals in the mental health field have raised alarms about the lack of mandatory psychological screenings for practicing therapists. Many are now advocating for periodic mental health evaluations for licensed clinical social workers, LCSWs, particularly those dealing with high-risk populations or undergoing significant personal stress. At the local level, mall security has become a central focus. Business owners and city council members are calling for reforms that include panic buttons installed inside every retail unit, increased presence of armed or uniformed guards, live-monitored security feeds during operating hours, direct emergency response protocols between tenants and law enforcement. Jamie Rocket ran a cookie and smoothie shop. His life was simple, his mission clear: to bring happiness to his customers and help build a community inside a developing mall. He operated with quiet consistency, building relationships with everyone from nearby vendors to first-time visitors. On July 1st, 2025, all of that ended. His life was taken not by a stranger, but by a former partner. A person trained to help others with emotional distress became the source of his final moments. She walked into his place of business, argued for nearly an hour, and pulled a gun. The case raises questions that still have no answers. How long had she been planning the attack? Were there warning signs that were ignored or dismissed? Could someone have intervened before that final confrontation occurred? More broadly, the case forces a conversation about how society protects people, regardless of gender, from obsessive and dangerous former partners. It challenges assumptions about who poses a threat and who is believed, and it draws attention to overlooked dangers within professional sectors where emotional boundaries are expected but not always maintained. In the end, Jamie Rocket's murder is not just a story of a man and his business. It is a reflection of failures, warning signs, and of violence that arrive in a space meant for community. How many more stories like his remain hidden in plain sight? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.